I used to work the graveyard shift at a gas station just off Interstate 90 in Montana, middle of nowhere, the kind of stretch where your cell signal dies 15 minutes before you even see our exit sign. The place was old, a relic from the 70s with wood-paneled walls, a sputtering neon sign that only said, "A station" most nights, and a single flickering canopy light over the pumps that buzzed like it hated being alive. Most nights were slow. A few truckers, the occasional lost tourist. But one night, around 3:10 a.m., I was alone behind the counter, half asleep, watching some late-night infomercial, when the motion bell above the door dinged. That bell never lied. I looked up expecting to see some sleepy driver needing fuel or snacks. Instead, there was a man already halfway through the store. Didn't see him walk in. He was tall, maybe 6'4", with thinning gray hair and a wrinkled tan suit, like he'd just crawled out of a crypt in Vegas. What stuck out the most were his eyes, cloudy, pale, not blind, but like he'd seen something he shouldn't have. He didn't look at me. He walked straight past the counter to the fridge aisle in the back, just stood there with the cooler door open, staring at the rows of energy drinks and Gatorade. The compressor clicked on, humming louder than usual. I cleared my throat. "Need help finding anything, sir?" No response. "Sir?" He slowly turned his head, not his body, just the head, and looked at me over his shoulder. His lips moved, but made no sound. Then he turned back and took a can of Monster from the shelf. Still didn't close the fridge door. Walked up to the counter, set it down, and reached into his coat pocket. Instead of pulling out a wallet, he placed a crumpled, sun-bleached photo on the counter. I picked it up carefully. It was a picture of the gas station, but not how it looked now. The sign was intact, the pumps were newer, and there was a different cashier behind the counter. But I recognized him. The guy in the photo was Todd. He'd worked this station before me. Quit 6 months ago after a nervous breakdown. Never really told anyone why. The man whispered something then, barely audible. I came back. I tried to hand him the photo, but he was already walking away, Monster still on the counter, unpaid. I stepped out from behind the register to follow him, but the moment I cleared the aisle, he was gone. The door hadn't chimed. I checked the cameras. Nothing. No footage of him walking in or out. Just me standing at the counter, talking to thin air, holding a picture that shouldn't exist. I called Todd the next morning. Took a while to convince him to pick up. When I described the Manton suit, pale eyes, crumpled photo, who went silent. Then he said, "You saw him too?" Apparently, Todd saw the same man 4 times over the course of his last month working there. Always around 3 a.m., always carrying the same photo. But every time, there was someone different behind the counter in the image, like the photo changed depending on who he showed it to. Todd swore one night the man handed him a version of the photo where he, Todd, wasn't behind the counter at all. It was empty. The lights were off. The windows were blacked out. Todd quit the next day. That night, I burned the photo behind the station in an old oil drum. The next shift, I found a copy of it under my windshield wiper. Same faded corners, same angle of the station, but this time, it wasn't Todd behind the counter. It was me. The man never came back after that. But every few nights, the bell chimes at 3:10 a.m., even if no one's there. And when I check the cooler, the fridge door's open, and a can of Monster is sitting by itself on the floor. Still cold. This story happened to my coworker Elena. She covered weekends at the same gas station off I-90, usually pulling doubles to stack overtime. Elena was Tuck Heck's Army, not easily rattled. So, when she told me she was quitting after one night, I knew something was really wrong. It was a Saturday in late October. Windy, cold, the kind of night where the rain comes at you sideways. Elena was working the 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. shift. Around 2:30 a.m., the rain picked up hard and visibility dropped to almost nothing. Nobody on the roads, not even truckers. She said the storm was the loudest thing she'd ever heard, in that building rain hammering the roof, thunder cracking in bursts that shook the windows. She was just starting to restock candy near the front shelves when the bell dinged. Someone had come in from the storm. Elena glanced up. It was a girl, maybe 12 years old, drenched head to toe, hair plastered to her face, shivering but silent. She was barefoot, no shoes, no jacket, just a white nightgown soaked in mud and rainwater. "Sweetheart," Elena said, dropping the box of candy. "Are you okay?" The girl didn't speak, just stared at her. Rainwater pooled beneath her feet, even though the entry mat should have absorbed most of it. The puddle just kept growing, like it was dripping from her endlessly. Elena ran from behind the counter to help her, reaching out to guide her to the back room for towels or a blanket. But the moment her fingers touched the girl's arm, she was gone. No puff of smoke, no fade, just gone. Only the puddle remained, slowly spreading across the tile. Elena stood frozen, heart hammering. She turned to the security monitor behind the counter. Nothing showed up. She rewound the footage, played it again. The bell dinged. The door opened. But no one came in. No figure, no girl. Just the door opening by itself, and the puddle forming from nothing. That's when the humming started. Elena said it was faint at first, like someone humming a lullaby through the wall. She thought it was just the wind, but it got louder, closer. It was coming from the storage room in the back. She grabbed her phone and flashlight, already dialing 911. But the phone screen was frozen. No signal, no buttons worked. The humming was louder now. Coming from behind the storage room door, Elena slowly walked back, flashlight trembling in her hand. The store lights flickered once, then again. When she reached the door, it creaked open an inch on its own. The flashlight beam caught something inside. Wet footprints, small, barefoot. Leading from the corner of the room directly toward the door, Elena swung it wide, and the humming stopped immediately. Room was empty. She said the silence was so heavy it felt like pressure on her chest. She backed away, turned to return to the counter and stopped. The girl was there again. Standing in front of the security monitors, one finger pointed directly at the screen. Elena stepped forward. The girl's image didn't reflect in the glass. And then the monitors began switching views on their own. All four screens flipped through different camera angles in fast bursiles, counters, exterior pumps, stockroom, and on each screen, in each frame, the girl was there, in different places. Sometimes standing on the counter, sometimes staring into the camera lens, her eyes completely black. Then, all screens cut to black. The bell dinged again. Elena turned, but the door hadn't opened. She didn't wait. She grabbed her keys, her bag, and ran out into the storm, drove home in soaking clothes, and never came back. The next day, I came in for my shift and found Elena's employee badge sitting neatly on the counter. Next to it was a child's muddy footprint dried into the tile. We don't know who the girl was. I asked the local sheriff a few weeks later. Turns out a girl matching that description went missing about 20 years ago during a flood near the old bridge by mile marker 225 miles from our station. Her name was Anna Marks. She was never found. Disappeared one rainy night on her way home from a sleepover. Her parents said she was barefoot when she left the house. The weirdest thing? I looked at the footage Elena saved to a USB. Every camera angle showed the girl, except the one behind the counter. In that feed, Elena was just standing there, staring at a wall. Back when I first started working the overnight shift, I had a manager named Bruce. Real old-school guy-balding, chain smoker, beard that looked like it could catch fire if he leaned too close to the coffee burner. He'd been running the place since the late 80s. Didn't say much, but he always warned me about one thing. Don't go near the underground tank hatch after 2 a.m. That was it. No explanation. No ghost story. Just that flat, tired warning. I figured he meant it was dangerous. The fuel tanks were underground, sealed with a rusted iron lid out back behind the dumpster. OSHA stuff, maybe. I didn't press. But one night, maybe my third or fourth week, I got curious. It was 2:25 a.m., and the station was dead quiet. Rain had just stopped, so the whole parking lot glistened under the canopy light. I grabbed a flashlight and stepped out back under the excuse of taking out trash. I stood near the iron hatch for a minute, just staring. It was covered in rust and grime, like it hadn't been touched in years. Then I heard it. A knocking. Not from inside the building. From under the hatch. I crouched down slowly, unsure if I was just hearing wind rattling something loose underground. But the knocks were clear. Steady. 3 taps. Pause. 3 more. I stood up fast and backed away, but I didn't run, just stared. Then something started scratching. From inside the tank. Slow and scraping, like claws or metal dragging against metal. My breath fogged up in front of me and I realized it had gotten cold. Way too cold for midsummer. I turned and walked quickly back inside, locked the back door behind me, and told myself I imagined it. Until it happened again the next night. Same time, same knock, same scraping. This time I checked the security feed on the outside camera. The hatch had moved. Just a few inches, like something underneath had pushed it up and let it settle back. The footage glitched at the exact moment it moved, static distortion that lasted 2 seconds. I asked Bruce about it the next morning. He lit a cigarette, sighed like a man who'd seen too much, and said, "That tank's been sealed since '97. Apparently, they used to store diesel back there. But after a contractor went down for routine cleaning and never came back up, they closed it off permanently. Said he got trapped, fell in, suffocated. OSHA swept it under the rug. His name was Eric Collins. Local guy, 27 years old. Body was never recovered." Bruce said every few years a new worker gets curious. Every single one of them hears the knocks. Some see more. One guy, Brandon, actually opened the hatch one night. That was back in 2004. They found Brandon the next morning lying in the stockroom, clothes soaked, eyes wide open, unblinking, barely breathing. He couldn't speak for 2 months. When he finally could, all he said was, "It's still down there." They fired him the same week. He kept coming back, standing at the tank every night, muttering to himself. Last anyone saw, he moved out of state. Bruce never replaced the backdoor camera after that. Said it was for the best. Fast forward a few weeks. I'm still working there. Still hearing the knocks, only now they've changed. They're mimicking. One night I was restocking Gatorade when I heard a voice through the back vents. It sounded like Bruce. But Bruce wasn't on shift. The voice said my name. Twice. Slow. Too slow. Then it laughed. Not Bruce's laugh. Something else trying to imitate it poorly. The next night, I shut off the store at 1:55 a.m., right before the knocking starts. Just flipped the switch, locked the doors, sat in my car until sunrise. I told Bruce I was done doing nights. He didn't argue. But before I left that job for good, I walked out to the hatch one last time, just to see. The lid was open. Not all the way, just cracked 2 inches. Inside, it was pitch black. But I swear I saw something staring up from below. Not eyes, just a shape. Something massive and still, like it was waiting, listening. I didn't call the cops. I didn't tell anyone. I closed the lid, backed away, and never returned. A month later, the gas station shut down for renovations. Last I heard, it was sold to a private buyer, No name listed. Cameras removed. Lights never turned back on. Some nights, if I'm driving late and I pass that old exit off I-90, I swear I see a light flicker behind the boarded-up windows. And sometimes, I think I hear 3 soft knocks beneath the pavement.